Hi, and welcome to this video where I will be sharing a newly discovered vulnerability in GitHub's repository creation and username renaming operations that could potentially allow an attacker to take control of popular repositories and use them to distribute malicious code to you and many others. This attack technique is called repojacking and marks the fourth time a unique method was identified that could potentially bypass GitHub's popular repository namespace retirement mechanism. Successful exploitation of this vulnerability could impact the open source community by enabling the hijacking of thousands of Go, PHP, Swift code packages, and GitHub actions, allowing threat actors to serve malicious code to millions of users and many applications. For some context, if you are not familiar with repojacking, in GitHub, users maintain projects within repositories. The URL to a specific project consists of the username and the repository name, which together are called a namespace. One of the many features GitHub provides is the ability to rename your user account. For example, a user called John Doe creates an account on GitHub, which becomes part of his domain URL. He then creates a new repository called PizzaLib, which users and other projects can point to and download code contained within it. John Doe can later decide to change his username to Alfredo. As soon as he does so, his old username becomes available to be registered by others. As long as his old namespace remains unregistered, GitHub will automatically set up a redirect between the old and new URL of his repository to prevent any existing references from breaking. However, once someone else registers the old username, John Doe, and creates with it a similarly named repository, in this case PizzaLib, the redirect ends. Attackers can take advantage of this by registering as Alfredo's old username and creating a new repository, also named PizzaLib, containing whatever malicious code they want. Now, anyone still looking up Alfredo's old username will receive the attacker's malicious code rather than being redirected to the new username. GitHub has taken measures to try and avoid this potentially harmful behavior by marking popular repositories where its user account was renamed as retired and preventing others from using the same namespace. However, a threat actor could bypass GitHub checks by almost simultaneously creating a repository and changing the username, which you will now be able to see through the following demo. To perform this attack, we will first ensure we are logged into the GitHub user account from which we will be performing the attack. Next, we will search for a vulnerable GitHub repo. Here we have a real example of one. Pay attention to this link. This is the original name, the username here, and the repo name here. When I hit enter, I get redirected to a similar yet different name. You can see here that they have 129 stars. Now, back in the attacker's account, we will check if they are vulnerable by first trying to create a new repo with the same name as the victim's repo. Then, we will try to change the username to the old username of the victim by going to Settings, Account, and Change Username. As can be seen with this green checkmark, the username is available for others to use. However, if we click on the Change My Username, we get the following error. The repository name has been retired and cannot be reused. So we can see here that GitHub has put protective measures to prevent hijacking popular repos in this manner. Now, we will attempt again to change the user and repo name, but this time we will execute these actions almost simultaneously through GitHub's API to try and cause a race condition. First, we will return to our initial state with our original username and delete the repository. Next, we execute the script in our terminal, which will change the repo name and username almost instantly. Now, once the script is executed, when we go back to the original namespace of the victim, you can see it no longer redirects to the legitimate repository and is now in control of the attacker, who can leverage this to upload similar content as the original repository with the addition of malware. This repo was just one example. However, there are thousands of additional repos with thousands of stars that are potentially vulnerable to this repojacking attack. This vulnerability has been reported to GitHub, who have since fixed the issue. But what can you do to protect yourself from other possible vulnerabilities in this mechanism? We recommend you avoid using retired namespaces to minimize the attack surface and instead go directly to the official link of the package. It is a good idea to ensure that there are no dependencies in your code that lead to a GitHub repository vulnerable to repojacking. Additionally, we maintain an open source tool that you can use that identifies packages at risk of repojacking and recommends a safer way to consume them. Thank you for watching, keep safe, and see you next time.